Great. It is 2 minutes past the hour. I think we're going to get ready to get started. Welcome everyone who's joining live and by recorded video to this month's Let's Talk Solutions, focusing on building effective web applications. Let's quick look at the agenda. Today we'll be working through planning a new application, building that application, and some additional resources you all will find very helpful. We can move on to the next slide. As you all know, my name is Amy Strom, your Director of Client Success, and today you will be hearing from Danielle Herring, our Innovation Strategy Manager. Danielle is new to NPACT and comes to us with over 25 years of experience in the business software industry in various roles, including support, business analysis, technical writing, and training. She's excited to serve on the innovation team and has a passion for training others on how to get the most out of their software solutions. We are so lucky that Danielle is on Team NPACT. With that, I'm going to pass this off to Danielle to get started. Take it away, Danielle.
Thank you, Amy, for the warm welcome. And thank you, everyone, for taking the time to spend with us today. I hope that everyone leaves this webinar feeling empowered to plan, configure, and build effective online web applications. Online applications are applications for grants or scholarships that can be filled out and submitted over the internet via a web browser. We call those, you'll hear them interchangeably as web applications or online applications. Both mean the same thing. FCG provides two types of web applications. We have proposals, which are used for competitive grant cycles, and open-ended grants. They can be configured for organizations, such as charities applying for a grant. They can also be configured for individuals, for things like disaster relief or financial assistance for employees. Scholarships are used by students to apply for scholarship grants. Most of our focus today will be on proposal web applications for organizations. Online application forms contain fields that are organized within application pages. The layout of each page is designed by your organization. Applicants see the published online applications pages as tabs in the Foundation Cloud Community Portal. Applicants enter information into the fields, and the information they enter once submitted is stored within FCG to be reviewed and used to determine eligibility. Here's a visual example of the entire process of planning and creating a web application. We begin with the planning phase, where some key questions need to be considered. Then we go to the building phase, and then finally it's time to configure your application. And we'll show you how to do that in the solution soon. So some of the questions that you want to ask in the plan phase: what type of application form? What information is required? How will the applicant answer? Will there be follow-up requests? Is a check-in report needed? And for build, create a new or reuse an existing application, create new pages or reuse existing pages, configure and add data fields, and then you'll design your application form layout. Then when we get into the configuration, I'll show you the different configuration options, how to test the application form, and when it is released to the portal. It's worth investing time up front to plan out the new application. We recommend using a Word document, and I'll show you a sample Word document so that you can see what I mean. The applications are built in FCG using the HTML editor, but the HTML editor isn't a good option for application planning. You can use the Word document to sketch out the details of each element of the application, build out the pages of the application, and identify the data fields to include. This Word document will serve as your roadmap as you start building the application. We've recently published a KBA on web application planning that includes a sample Word document you can use as a starting point. Let's go over some of the details to consider when planning a new application. Is the online application cyclical or open-ended? Cyclical applications have a specific start and end date configured. The online application is read-only in the portal before and after the configured date range. Cyclical applications are useful for enforcing application deadlines. It's important to note cyclical applications can be used only once. Open-ended applications are always available to the applicants once published to the portal. This is useful for ongoing grant programs. Open-ended applications can be manually released to the portal and manually taken down. Do you want your application to be single-stage or multi-stage? A single-stage application requires applicants to complete only one round of questions with 1 or 2 pages of questions and doesn't require the use of any supplemental pages. A single-stage application can be built using standard pages. A multi-stage application has 2 sections to it. It requires the applicant to respond to an initial stage of questions whose answers must be reviewed before they can proceed. A multi-stage application is useful when a lot of interest is expected and you want to narrow down the list of finalists before you request more information. This application requires the use of preliminary pages for the initial stage of questions and standard pages for the main stage of the application. So what types of pages should you use for web applications? FCG offers a variety of application page types. Preliminary pages are used for multi-stage applications. The preliminary page contains the first round of questions. Standard pages are the main pages in an application form. The standard page is the most frequently used page for online applications. Addendum pages are specific to scholarship funds and only used for scholarship fund matching. One addendum page is allowed per fund. Reference pages present a list of questions or required information needed for references. When asking for references, you usually want the applicant to enter the name, relationship with the applicant, and email addresses for up to 3 individuals identified as references. These individuals each receive a secure email inviting them to serve as reference for the applicant and are able to use the portal without establishing login credentials. Supplemental pages are follow-up pages sent post-award that are meant to capture additional information from the applicant. Workflows for these pages are configured to make them available to the recipient on the portal at the desired time. Review-only pages are made available in the portal for your reviewer's eyes only. This type of page is useful for gathering and presenting information from application reviewers. You'll want to determine how many pages of questions to present to applicants. We recommend you group those questions together and turn each into a standard page. Some examples of questions that could be grouped together are information about the applicant's organization, project information, attachments, and financing information. In your word planning document, create separate pages for each section of information required from the applicant. For a multi-stage application, you'll want to determine which pages are preliminary and which are standard pages. When you plan the general layout of the standard page and any preliminary pages, it's time to think about the application questions to include on each page. These questions are set up as fields in the application. Fields are where the applicant provides the answers to the questions presented. Some important things to consider as you plan out each field are which data type to use and which type of field fits best for the questions you are asking of the applicant. What is the data type for each field? The available data type options are line text, which provides 1 line for data entry, multi-line text, which provides multiple lines for data entry. Multi-line text is good to use for paragraphs and for any essay questions. Number fields are used for storing numbers that don't need to be formatted. It's not good to use for data like phone numbers, for example, that would need some formatting. The date type provides a date picker so the applicant can select a specific date. Yes/no questions can be set up so the default is a checkbox, but they can also be set up as a list. So your applicant would have a drop-down list with yes and no values, and they would choose their appropriate value from the list. Specifically, list type fields are populated from characteristics that must be set up in FCG. A good example for when to use characteristics is for scholarship applications, where the applicant would choose from a drop-down list of predetermined values for things like ethnicity, colleges, or location. File attachment allows file users to attach files. You can put limits on file types and file sizes. URL allows the user to attach a URL. This is useful in place of attaching very large files. Hidden fields are fields that are not visible to the applicants. They would only be available to the reviewers. There are some special field considerations to keep in mind in the planning phase. Is the field required or optional? Will this field be conditional? If so, what other fields depend on this field? For example, if you have a question 1 that says, have you already secured funding for this project, yes or no? Question 2 could be made to pop up if the answer to the first question is yes. Question 2 pops up and says, if yes, how much? Question 2 is the conditional field and is only visible if the applicant answers yes to question 1. Is it an essay question? For essay questions, do you want to provide a long text field for the applicant to populate? Are there any character or word count limitations you want to set? Or would you rather have the applicant attach the essay as a document? You'll want to consider which fields will be used for scoring the application. If so, what method will be used for scoring? The options for scoring are none if the field is not used for scoring. Numeric allows the reviewers to assign a numeric value for scoring. So an example would be a scale of 1 to 5, with 5 as the most favorable score. With a text type field, the reviewer enters text such as poor, good, or excellent, and automatic scoring is done automatically in FCG. After your planning is complete for the preliminary and standard pages, the next step is the planning process. In the planning process is to design any additional pages. These are your pages which might include a follow-up report or a required check-in from the applicant. These supplemental pages are hidden from the applicant for a predetermined amount of time based on workflows. For a scholarship application, decide whether to use fund matching. If applicants are presented with multiple scholarship funds to choose from, use fund matching. If the foundation staff decides which funds to assign to submitted applications, manually or through FCG fund matching, do not use fund matching. If the application is intended for a single scholarship fund, do not use fund matching because the online application will be configured in FCG to point to a specific fund. If you go with fund matching, you'll want to design fund addendum pages. You'll also want to configure the scholarship fund to set which page is the addendum page for the scholarship fund. Will you require references for the applicant? If so, design reference pages. References get a secure email link with an invitation to access the application. This does not require them to have a portal ID. Applicants can see when a reference has been submitted, but they cannot access the details of the reference. If reviewers are presented with a separate page of questions, use the review-only pages. So how do you know when to reuse, copy, or start an application from scratch? If a foundation has existing online applications, the grants administrator can decide whether to reuse an existing application, copy it as a starting point for a new application, or build a new application from scratch. There are pros and cons with each option. When reusing an application, a grants administrator can simply bring an existing application online again. This is only a good option if the applications don't change from year to year. Reopening a closed application allows applicants from prior years to submit their incomplete applications or to return to their incomplete applications and submit them. If the fields are changed from a prior year, the applicants won't appear in FCCP properly, and the applicants could experience errors when trying to submit. When copying an online application, A copy of an existing application is created. Then a choice is made on which pages in the application to reuse, copy, or omit. This is a good option for applications that do change from year to year. You can choose to reuse pages where fields are not changed and copy pages where field changes will be made. The third option is to create a new online application. This option requires more work and planning up front, but starting a new application is a good option when planning for future reusable application pages. Also, starting a new application from scratch, you don't have the possibility that if you change a page, it will change in other applications that are sharing that page. When the application planning process is all wrapped up, you're ready to build your web application within FCG. This needs to be done even if you are copying an existing online application. Now let's switch over to FCG and talk about how to build your web application. So first, I'm going to take you on a little detour here. I wanted to show you the new under Foundation Cloud Grants in our KBA. Under Online Apps, we have our new KBA on Grant Application Form Planning. And I'll just scroll down to this to show you. We have included a sample Word document that you can use for your purposes. I've downloaded that so that you can see what this looks like. And I'm going to stop my video for this part just to save on some bandwidth. All right. Now, of course, we'll go to home so I can show you how to navigate, although I'm sure you know it won't hurt. Except that my system needs to refresh. Well, that's refreshing. Let's talk a little bit more about the form planning. So this is a sample standard page. And then you have for field 1, all of the questions that we covered in our slides. Is it required or optional? Is it an essay question, single line text? So you can do this planning for every single field on that standard page. And then for the other pages that you have, you would just add to this document until you had all your pages and all of your fields planned out. So in FCG, not surprisingly, we go to Online Apps, Online Apps. The first thing you'll see here is a list of existing applications. You can open an application by clicking on the Config button. You can add a new application by clicking the New Application button. Manage field mappings. Field mappings, we won't go into too much here. There's so much that I want to show you in so little time. But managed field mappings are a time saver for you and the applicant. You can map fields to pull data from the database to populate the field with values stored in FCG. The Manage Predefined Fields takes you to the field library. Predefined fields are great for things like organization information or name and address information you'll use throughout the application form. We have a field library where you can establish a set of predefined fields. We recommend you make a list of common fields in your application pages and add them as predefined fields. If you want to search for an application, that's pretty easy. You just put in a full or partial search for the name and click the Find button here. So let's see really quickly what happens when you add a new application. So you'll choose type of application. Is it a grant application? Is it an individual grant application? Or is it a scholarship application? We're going to focus on grant applications because there are some nuances with scholarships, but we will be releasing some more information on scoring and scholarship applications after the start of next year. So then here you want to enter a name of the application. You want it to be generic but unique. And then you'll be taken to the main page for your application where you have the tiles that can be configured. So we're going to go back because we have so little time. I am going to do like they do on the cooking shows, and we'll go into a pre-baked application so that I can explain the options here. The configuration tile. So I'll go over the tiles here. Well, first I should cover the buttons. We'll save pages for last because that's where all the good stuff is for creating the application. So here the edit doesn't do a whole lot. The edit, you can change the name and the applicant type. Otherwise, the editing is on each individual tab. You can copy an application. Let's see what that looks like really quickly. You choose we'll do the main proposal application. That's a good one to copy. And then what I want to point out to you most of all is that for these pages, you can choose for each page in the application, do you want to copy it? Do you want to reuse it? Or do you want to omit it completely? So once you make those selections and save, then you will have your application starting with a copy. Delete application is fairly self-explanatory. Preview the application. When you have your application all configured and you want to see how it will appear to the applicant, you can click on Preview Application. And then Add to Query Screen will add the fields from this application to the query screen where they can be used for batch correspondence. And if you remember, just last month, Jill did the Let's Talk Solutions on reporting and queries. So if you want to refresh on why you would add an application to the query screen, I would recommend that you look back at that Let's Talk Solutions. All right, let's talk about the tiles now. The configuration tile automatically process applications when selected means that the submitted applications are automatically processed to become a proposal or a scholarship application in FCG. So they'll either be a proposal or a scholarship record, whichever type makes sense. Default fund, this is the fund or scholarship fund that is automatically assigned to an application when it is submitted. You would not use this application if using scholarship matching. Here's where you choose your cycle type, cyclical or open-ended. I should have done this. And then when you turn on currently accepting applications, this only applies to open-ended applications. But when selected, applicants can create, edit, or submit applications in the portal. Set this to false until the application cycle begins. If we chose that this was a cyclical, we would have additional fields here where we can choose a submit status. And then we can set our range of when our stages start and end dates are. Moving on to the web settings tile. So the web settings determine how the application appears to the applicant. The application title is the official name of the application. You can put a password so that only someone with the password, it would be a by invitation only application, and they would need the password to be able to get into there and submit an application. Listed online controls whether the application is visible to applicants, regardless of if the application is set to currently accepting invitations. Again, leave this one false while building the application. Allow multiple applications will allow the applicant to submit more than one application. Featured, when selected, means the application will be highlighted and prioritized for applicants in the portal. This is done by listing the application on the landing page tile, displaying at the top of the list of available online applications. Submit email CC will trigger a confirmation email to the applicant upon submission of their online application. If the grants administrator wants someone at the foundation to receive a copy of the email, they can enter that user's email address here. And the scoring tile. These settings are used to configure an application for reviewing. We won't go too far into the weeds with reviews and scorings in these sessions, but just a reminder, we plan to roll out more information for you after the first of the year. In brief, applications may have up to 3 scoring rounds. Each round has its own settings in a separate tab. And when the enabled tab is checked, that means that the round is available for scoring. We have the different scoring types: automatic, manual, a manual score, or a manual yes, no. And then we have advanced status, decline status, expired status. The last tile before we jump into pages is messages, descriptions, and instructions tile. This displays an HTML editor where you can add robust messaging to your application. So now let's go to the pages tile. This is where you create the pages for your application. You can add a new page, which will add a completely new page. You choose the system name, how it will appear in FCG, the web name, how it appears to the applicant, the page type. And you can see here we've added some page types to ours. Yours would be our list of defaults and the ones that your foundation has added. You can make the page active. You can hide from reviewers, and you can set, for the sort order, we recommend that you use, you go by 5s or 10s. So for example, your first page, if you put it at sort order 10, and then you find later that you need to insert more pages before that, then you have the leeway there to add those pages in between. You can add an existing page. You can copy an existing page. What I really want to focus on here with our few minutes that we have left is the layout of the fields. So here we click the ellipsis next to a page and click on layout. This takes us to the HTML editor. And also, with us not having enough time for me to show you absolutely everything I want here, I want to remind you to use the help sliders here. There is great help content on every part of this, from viewing the main application page to using the HTML editor. Here you have your list of fields, and you can see these were put into the label is the title here's name of organization. And then the little bubble is where they would actually get the space to answer the question for that particular field. Let me show you what it looks like when you add a new field. We can add a new field, or we can add a predefined fields. I glossed over predefined fields, but those are held in those you can build up a field library, and then you can choose from your list of fields here. What I really want to bring your attention to are these buttons are fairly new, these 5 buttons on the second row of HTML editor tiles. So insert a field will allow you to insert a field. You can use that. You can also drag and drop from the field list. Validate the page. Let's run that and see what happens. Oh, it shows us the following fields are missing on the page: first name and phone. So if we click OK, oops, let me do that again. And then we can go ahead and add those fields. And then if we would run the validation again, then it would pass. We'll save this one for last. It's a big one. Copy page allows you to make a copy of the page. And then you can set the field sort order here. When you have all of the page configured and all of your fields added and where you like them, you'll click Regenerate Form. What this does is removes and replaces the underlying HTML. So here in this warning, it says, this will completely regenerate the content for this page. the existing page layout will be deleted. Enter the desired width for the label column or leave it blank. So this is letting you know it will reset the underlying HTML. I should also mention for any of you that are savvy in HTML, you can also do this in straight HTML instead of the editor. So now we've regenerated our form. And let's go back. Oops. Once we're done, we want to click the Save Content button. And then the last thing I want to show you here is what preview application looks like. And you can see, as I told you in the beginning, each page is presented as a tab. And so this is, if I were applying for this application, this is how it would appear to me. I can go through the tabs, fill in the fields. And this preview is great if something's off or you don't like the way something looks, you can go back into that HTML editor and you can go ahead and clean that up. We do have additional resources besides the help sliders. You're probably familiar with our documentation center, but we've provided an easy link for you here. And there you can access our Learn library. The specific courses that we would recommend to you for more, adjacent to this webinar would be our new building grant applications, workflows. Oh, sorry, that one's not new. The KBA is building grant applications, workflows, and then correspondence and characteristics. I mentioned that if you want something to show as a drop-down list in your application, you would set that up as characteristics. So that one's good if you need a refresher on how to do that. We have a couple of white papers, creating web applications and workflows. And sometime in early 2024, we are planning a white paper for scoring of web applications. For knowledge base articles, we have copy an existing application, reference page configuration, reopen a supplemental page, supplemental pages, and here's the brand new one, the grant application form planning. And then on that documentation center, in the bottom center of the screen, we're asking for your feedback through user voice. So hopefully some of you have started to use user voice. We really welcome your feedback. If you have a suggestion or an enhancement request, you can go into user voice. You can search to see if someone else has brought up that suggestion. If they have, you can vote to bump that in visibility and priority. Otherwise, you can submit your new enhancement request. And the product team does look at this and they take it really seriously. So please use it and give us your feedback. So now we'll turn it back over to Amy.
Great, thanks so much, Danielle, and thanks for bringing up user voice. We do encourage everyone to give us your enhancement requests so that we can make our products even better. I do want to mention our next Let's Talk solution is on Wednesday, November 15th. I hope you all can join us. And if you, as always, if you have topics you'd like us to cover or to consider topics, new topics for Let's Talk Solutions, please shoot me an email. My email will be on the next slide if you don't already have it. Please stay connected with NPACT. You can find us on LinkedIn most often. And then let's see, I haven't seen any open questions, Danielle. We might get some later as people start to plan their application. But if anybody has any questions, feel free to enter them in the Q&A within our screen or even within chat, either one. Both Danielle and my contact information is on the screen. Please reach out to us with questions you might have that you didn't get a chance to ask during the presentation. We are available for answering those. I think there's still no questions. Oh, Mark had said, oh, there was a question within the chat. Let's see, about leaving the label, deleting applications. How does this affect prior applications submitted?
That is a good question. Oh, you know what? I'm glad somebody asked that question because I had in here to tell you actually that we recommend you don't delete applications if they've ever been released to applicants, just so that you save those history purposes. Because if you did delete them, it could affect existing applications.
Perfect. Thank you. I think that was it. So you cannot delete an app that has been used, correct? Mark Grossath had answered that in the chat as well. All right, I want to thank everyone for coming today. You'll get a little bit of time back. Again, please let us know if you have other ideas. Please reach out on User Voice. You will receive a copy of this presentation, as well as links to the new knowledge base articles that will be very helpful. I think is there one other slide, or is it just our thank you slide, Danielle?
Yep.
That's it. Thanks everyone for coming today. We'll see you all on November 15th. And we'll talk soon. Thanks, everyone.